G'day everyone. I thought it'd be fun to share the bit of the dust settling after the stream, because in the stream I took a whole bunch of ideas, shared my own ideas. Everyone sort of voted on the video ideas that they really liked. And what I did is I grouped the video ideas with 30 to 40% votes, which was a sort of on the higher end, and then also videos with over 40% votes, which is the highest sort of tier. Which is that's all the user vote stuff. And then I also had a separate column for suggestions I like, which aren't necessarily based on the percentage that you guys voted. It's if I liked it, or a lot of these actually came from the just, do you have any other ideas? And I scrolled through thousands of just like random people, lots of random things, a lot of people just saying wet randomly. But there were really cool ideas in there. And then finally selfish videos, which are just ones I want to do. So, I mean, I want to do kind of all of these, to be honest. I wouldn't have written them down if I didn't. So, here is my Miller note of these. And there's some really cool stuff here. The 30 to 40% welding steel sculpture, stop motion, sewing plushies, leathercraft. I bolded ones that I feel like I'd get particularly enthusiastic about and also would be easier to put together, which is, it's easier for me to get enthusiastic about them if they're videos I can sort of not know what I'm doing this week, come in and look at and be like, yeah, I could do that. They're ones I really like. So I've bolded things like redrawing childhood drawings, recovering books. I wrote Del Toro Quest in brackets, thinking that might kill people voting on it, because I don't know how many people know Del Toro Quest, but I'm reading it with my son at the moment. But I can imagine, like, because there's the 7 gems on the belt of Del Toro, so making like a cool resin gem on the cover of each book, I think would be really cool. So what else have we got? Gatecrash character design. I'm really glad a lot of people were excited about that, because that's also on my selfish list. So I've actually booked that for next week. I'm really excited. I was going through the calendar. I'm like, okay, so I've got 3 days next week. What am I? And I'm like, I'm gonna do the thing I want to do. And you guys have said you want to do it. It's basically, I'm gonna be approaching 2 characters, so it'll be a character design session, trying to approach 2 characters, and then showing you guys some of my game and starting to sort of develop it a little bit. So I'm really excited about that. So yeah, that's the idea. There's a whole bunch of these: epic terrarium, tarot card design, recurring childhood OC. So that's the 30 to 40%. It gets even more like exciting with the 40% and over. So a lot of these are sort of bigger, harder to pull off, but also very exciting. So like, for example, and this one's not so like huge or hard to pull off, but it is more logistically challenging. Drawing my children's drawings. I say logistically challenging, I mean, they're doing my children, but they go to school, and also I want to film it in a way that they can be in the studio and sort of draw with me to sort of come up with their ideas, and that'll be really fun. But also, you know, we want to set that up properly. But I think that would be a really fun one, to be honest. Reviewing weird art products is one people really wanted. Making cosplay armor, I think, was the highest voted one. There's a lot more involved in that, but that is one that now that I think of it, I could try and find either someone to collab with, or there's like a business I saw at, like, I've seen at several PAXs. They sell a lot of foam and they probably make stuff too, so checking that out. I definitely think it'd be the sort of thing I'd benefit from, working with someone on my first piece or 2 and then going solo. But it'll be cool to sort of like unlock those skills. A lot of people also, right up there, probably equal first, was Bob Ross challenges. A lot of people want those again. It's sat on the shelf for a while. I felt like I beat that dead horse, but you know, if people wanted it enough, maybe we could revisit it. You know, it's a good one too, because usually I can pull those off in a day. And the more videos I can sort of do in a little less time, the more I can build up time to do bigger videos like the Del Toro Quest book covers, which would take quite a bit of time to recover 7 books and do gems and all that stuff. I wrote how to draw, specifically how to draw blank, and that got a huge amount of votes. But the idea popped in my head, kind of like the entire history of the world, I guess, which is obviously a very viral, very successful video. How to draw videos I have this knee-jerk reaction away from them. Maybe I shouldn't, maybe I could do a few, but I still, like, I can't help but frame my thinking in terms of like what I have learned is algorithmically at least passable. And it popped into my head the idea of doing a video that is shamelessly long, like up to an hour long, pretty sort of fast paced in terms of like saying things and going from this to that, but starting with really basic shapes, and through the course of the video just getting more and more complex and branching out and going through characters and going through perspective and like literally covering everything in that really rapid fire thing. I don't know if I could pull it off with a little bit of that music thing that he does in the entire history of the world, I guess. That might be like glutton for punishment-y, but I'm also slightly tempted to. So anyways, that's a bigger project that will require a lot of planning, a lot of scripting, but it would be really fun to do. I feel like it would be very entertaining to people who aren't artists and would just find it interesting to watch all of it, but also helpful to people who want to know how to draw stuff. Anyway, Inktober, month-long drawing challenges. A lot of people voted on that. Again, something I've sort of avoided, but I reckon I could do Inktober if I just film one drawing a day, allot the time every day, and just do it as one video in October. You know? I've never done it before. I've always avoided it because the output content, like the scope I work in, but I reckon I could make it work. So anyways, so that's the list. They're the voted ones. Other suggestions I like, I won't read them all, but I'll give you a few that stand out to me as pretty fun. Outdoor painting, I think, is kind of cool. And that could be a chance to sort of like, aside from going places and painting and talking about that experience, and figuring out how to carry stuff around and how to do that comfortably, like referencing how that became a thing historically, because it was actually when tubes were invented. Prior to that, you couldn't take paint anywhere. It had to stay in studio. So the aluminium paint tubes, or I think they were made of zinc or lead or something, anyway, made painting portable. It sort of revolutionized what kind of paintings were made and stuff. So it would be interesting to talk about that while sort of doing that and experiencing that. And also, the only time I've left the studio to paint was for the illusion thing, and that was so focused on just copying and matching to the camera. Whereas this would actually be an experience of just going out and painting and focusing on my eye and what I'm painting, rather than, like obviously capturing it on camera, but not just watching the camera. It's ironic that I went out to paint and I'm just watching the camera screen the whole time. Anyways, the ultimate dice tower. Some of these things sort of popped into my head as I took ideas down, and that to me seems like a really fun thing to do. Painting. This was a random one someone wrote down that it feels very Mr. Beastie, and yet I can picture doing it. It feels like it's something that would be quite me. Painting in the inside of a box, painting inside a box until I finish, which is interesting. So building a box that's big enough to fit me in, getting a supply of paints, and not being able to leave until the entirety of the inside of the box is painted, and figuring out how to film that with like GoPros in different areas and breathing holes and all that stuff. But I feel like that would be really fun. But there's also just lots of miscellaneous drawing ones, which I think like is nice to sort of give my permission to do again, and to get into. And I'm excited that all of you are very excited about it. So there's still a huge mix, and I'm not really interested in going in one direction. I don't want to just do drawings and character designs again, which is what I used to do a lot of, and I don't want to just do bigger and bigger and Mr. Beastie style YouTuber clickbaity stuff. But I do like a bit of that because it's fun, and I think if it's the sort of thing I can get my genuine energy behind and it doesn't feel forced, I think it's a good idea. Last but not least, my selfish videos. Gatecrash, game dev and character design is the one I've booked for next week. But the other ones, I've actually written giant art supplies again. Many years ago, some of you will remember, I was going to do these giant art supplies in the previous studio, made them out of foam, sent them off to a collaborator, never heard from him again. It cost us $500 to ship it to someone else in Australia. Nothing. So I'm thinking like, I can't help but think like when I film around the studio in the different rooms, where it's the warehouse or Studio 2 or whatever it is, there's not really a coherent thing, like a set piece or a visual. There's only Studio 1's mural. And I think going back to and making some giant art supplies, it's sort of fun and sort of has a nice thumbnail opportunity for giant art supplies, but B, I think it can help future videos to make them a bit fun, to have sort of that art attacky flavor in the videos of like giant art supplies that are just sort of present here and there, you know? So I think that would be really cool. I am starting to blab, and I'm conscious that we're over 10 minutes of me blabbing, but hey, I guess that you guys are tuning in for that, aren't you? Expansion foam sculpting, that stuff that like you use for insulation. I don't know if this is a dumb idea or not, if it's like toxic, or I'd be safe, I guess, but it just looks so cool to play with. And then when it dries, it seems like you can hack it apart. So trying to sculpt with that seems interesting. I just wrote dioramas and miniature models because I just like that sort of thing. I have the idea of a Zomboid diorama. I'm really into Project Zomboid at the moment. Da Vinci Punk workshop diorama based on our roleplay universe that's coming up. I think that'll do. That you get the idea. But yeah, I'm feeling really refreshed. Again, I spent the day sort of just mainly doing admin stuff, but spending a couple of hours doing that, going through your comments again, sort of, you know, digesting, processing, and then sort of organizing those ideas and ending with something that feels like I have so much to work with that I can be genuinely excited about and looking forward to next week. And like the way I feel now as opposed to the way I felt a month or two ago is insane. It's chalk and cheese. Like I just feel so motivated, so better for having talked about all of this, so supported and grateful. So yeah, it's good. It's been a good week. And we're turning stuff around and it feels really good. And it's one of those things where like, you know, I'll be doing this for a long time. Guarantee you we're going to be here again. You know, of course we're going to have to do other course corrections in the future. That is just the nature of life, of this platform, of being human. But I'm really grateful that so many of you have stuck with me for this long and are excited about the next stage of the journey. Side note, I think I cursed it a little bit when we moved from the previous studio to here. I identified the phases of the channel with the analogy that we had gone through the first 3 phases and compared that to the MCU, and the third phase of the MCU, which was the completion of the Avengers Endgame, you know. And I was like, we're going into phase 4. The problem is phase 4 sucks. So I think we've done phase 4. That's not true. It hasn't sucked, but you know, I think we're leaving the MCU analogy. I think we're just going to carve our own path and make it epic. Thanks for joining me. I hope you guys have a delightful weekend, and I will see you next week.